When you come into the world, we take on the identity of those who are more powerful than us. What we're looking for is a kind of person who is looking for meaning. What's the meaning of life? Why am I here?
I'm calling you guys to say, all right, just hold your hand up and put that mic in front of you and open up the pathway to your Father in heaven inside you. Let something out. See what comes to you. You don't have to be all ready. If you're all ready, that's packaged. That's marketing. I'm not looking for marketing. I'm looking for your spirit. Say something that you're compelled to say.
Okay, Alan, I want you to address to Walter the challenges of if he does go to school, because if you've been homeschooled your whole life, and you're thrown into that culture, it can be very overwhelming. And it's a weaning process. Actually, being a parent is a continuous weaning process. It's not okay, now you're on your own. That's too much. It's a continuous giving them little bits and see how they do with it. And monitoring, giving them a little bit more. Then if they stumble, then you talk about it.
Well, what moms and dads forget, sadly, is they forget what their job is. And their job is to keep growing right alongside their kids. They look at their kids and they're born, and then they start to grow up a little bit, and they grow up a little bit more, and they grow up a little bit more, and we are stagnant. We stagnate. We don't grow at the pace of our kids. And our kids start to see our faults and start to go, well, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be impatient like that. I don't want to be ambitious like that. You know, kids are innocent. We've lost our innocence. So we're just ambitious. We're in it to win it. But that's not what it's all about. So as parents, our job, and mothers and fathers, when you have a boy, is to not raise a boy, is to raise a man. From the time he's a little man to the time he's a big fat one like me. My dad has never stopped raising me to be a man. And my job is to embrace now that I'm a man. And now I have my own connection to my Father in heaven, and I have this wonderful friendship with my Father here on earth. And my Father now looks to me to help him. And that's what I'm supposed to do, is to love my Father here on earth, but now take guidance from my Father in heaven. So your job is, and all you parents raising children, is to not raise kids. We write them off as, just kids. Kids do stupid things. To look at our children and realize we're raising the next generation of leaders. We're raising the next generation of men and women. And we must be good examples to those children, to those men and women that are on their way up in this life. And so your responsibility, Amelia, with Walter, is to improve yourself as much as you expect him to improve himself. Right? Because we put a lot of expectations on our kids. Do as I say, not as I do. You know, it's the craziest saying in the world, but it's the damn truth. We say to our kids, do as I say, but then you're thinking not as I do, because you couldn't live under your own set of circumstances that you put on your own children. You wouldn't want to live like that. You'd rebel too. So let's not make them rebel. Don't put him in that position to rebel. Look at him now like what if you were raising the President of the United States 30 years from now, 20, 30, 40 years from now? What if he was the president? Wouldn't you raise him a little different? We don't look at our kids and give them enough potential in our own minds to raise a President of the United States. The next phase of your life with Walter is going to take an entirely new you. Okay? You need to learn how to trust him. You need to learn how to trust yourself. You need to submit to your Father in heaven and ask for guidance. But this next phase of your guys' life together, it's going to take an entirely new you, and he'll follow you in that direction because he'll see that you're being a new mom, a mom that is God-loving. I was going to say God-fearing, but really it's God-loving. We fear the wrath that we don't do the things we know we should, but the reality is you need to embrace what a wonderful opportunity you have to raise that little man. We think our kids are just like they're learning at our level. We forget that we need to continuously talk about the principles in the movies the way that I was talking about how my dad would say, you see, if that man would have done this, that would have happened. You know what I'm saying? We need teachers in our lives. Why can't we be each other's teachers? Because I may learn something today and teach you something tomorrow. Tomorrow you may learn something and teach me something. We can all be each other's teachers together. So let me do this for Walter then. Walter, so you know what the Baja 500 is, right? Big desert race, right? So I raced in the Baja 500 and I won in 2006 with a big team. And what I found out when I first started was that I wanted to be the driver. And the driver has a difficult job, but there's two people in that car. There's the driver and the navigator. Because the navigator has to tell the driver which way to go because there's no roads. You're in the desert and you're following dirt trails and sometimes you're going up, over this thing called the Goat Pass and you have to go down onto the beach and then you're trying to navigate. So whose job is more important? The person who's driving, who's dealing with every minute of every day, right, of every moment, turning left, turning right, turning left, turning right, or the person that's going to help you win the race by getting you to your destination. If you never get to your destination, you can never win the race. So if you just look at it from racing, right now you're the driver. You're the driver of your life, but your mom's your navigator. She'll help you get to the end where you win the race. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in life. And you're like, I don't know where I am. You can't win the race if you don't even know where you are. Mom is navigator. You may be driving. And then at some point, maybe you'll be her navigator. Like I'm my dad's navigator right now. I need to make sure that he's going the right places and doing the right things so he can finish well. So listen to your mom. Have some good conversations with her. Debate things. Ask questions. But she's right. The next phase of your life, Walter, is also going to take a new you. You're at this stage where you're starting to become a man, and you're going to go out into the world. If you want to do this, are you ready? You think you are? If you're ready, keep your connection with him and that lady sitting next to you. She's your navigator right now. Someday you may trade places.
Alan, a few minutes ago you said you made the comment that you hadn't seen me in about a year and a half. And you were talking prior to that about your father and the handshakes of all these people. Well, what happened to that year and a half in the beginning of it, one Sunday morning I woke up with a dream. And your dad had reached out his hand to me. And I put my hand in his hand. It was warm. It was soft. And there was something wordless conveyed to me in that handshake. I come to the Patriot House that morning to our meeting. And after the meeting, I always kind of stuck around in my chair watching, I say, the credits. And because I liked to watch everybody leave, body language and all that. And your dad stood up, everybody was gone, and he outreached his hand to me. And I shook his hand, and it was it was my dream that I had earlier that morning. And it was so much in that handshake that it was said, go away, you're okay, you're fine, you don't need to come anymore. And all this stuff that was wordless in this handshake. And it wasn't anything, rejection. I didn't take a rejection or anything. It was so beautiful. And his hand was warm. It was sweet. It was tender. And I stopped coming because that was kind of like, you're okay, farewell, you'll do fine. You're okay. So when you said I hadn't seen you in your house, that's what happened.
I'm glad that's what it is.
Yes.
That's sweet. Thank you. Who else?
Well, yesterday I got a chance to meet my brother for the first time. And I had known about him on Facebook for a few years before, but I didn't know he existed. Our family was split up. He doesn't even know his dad either, my dad. And so we got together at a restaurant in town and got to know each other better. And he sees what I see. And his youngest son was there too. Very conservative, very decent people. And I think it's the beginning of a new friendship. But our family was pretty broken up.
Well, God is calling his children home, and he's bringing us back together. And Brenda's proof of that, because I haven't seen her in a year and a half, so we're back together again.
That's about it.
That's it. Thank you.
I first heard your father on the radio. I must have been 22, 23. And I grew up thinking, there's got to be more. There's got to be something else in this world. And when I heard his voice, I go, there is another way. There is another way. And from that moment, the inner journey began. And I will always listen to your father whenever I hear him on the radio and wherever I am. And I'm just so thankful for this moment.
To that point, there are a lot of archives. My dad was on the air for 55 years. And we have archives upon archives, and we're doing something called the Legacy Project, which is to make it to where you'll be able to search through all of the years and all the talks in his radio shows. And it's a tremendous undertaking, and it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of time. So I ask that you be patient with me and our team and continue with your contributions, because it takes money to do these things. If you go down to the mailroom here, anybody that wants to see it, I'm sure Mike will give them a tour. There are stacks this high of these gigantic videotapes that need to be all transferred and digitized so that you guys can, watch seminars of my father from the 70s and 80s and 90s and 60s. So, but it's sweet. And I feel the same way. Like I said, I used to drive down to Los Angeles every week, and I couldn't wait to hear my dad on the radio. He's my dad. I thank God for my dad every day. Next.
Yes. I haven't been here for a while. I went away. Had an experience with your dad with the warm handshake and all that, hugs. But the last time he did it was when he said to me, he took my hands and he says, go and get your own life. And he said, and stop meditating. And I was blown away because I was so caught up in that mechanical thing. Right. I never saw the pixels.
So I was right, is what you're saying. And everybody laughed when I said that because everybody knew I was right.
For a while, I couldn't stop the meditation. And I was like, well, I guess I'm just not going to see the pixels. And I stopped meditating. But I was meditating all the time. I was having those self-realizations, but I wouldn't listen to them. Yeah. And I just, coming back here, boy, this was, I was here, like you said yesterday, for years. I worked here. The memories came back, the sad ones, the happy ones. And I wanted to say something about when he took my hands and told me to go away and get my own life. That part of me took over, and I took it as a rejection. And I went through that for probably about a year and a half. And the same time, I felt that warmth. And that scenario would go through my mind of him telling me to go away. I feel a rejection, but I always remember the warmth that came through his hands and the love. And it was something that I'd searched for all my life. And you can't put words to it. It just is, It's that connection.
But here's the thing, Marilyn, and I want to say this to all you guys. When you shake somebody's hand, when you reach your hand out to another human being and you shake their hand, send love through your hand. Send it right into them, and they'll feel it. And they will talk about your handshake for 50 years to come. And there is the difference between just shaking somebody's hand. My dad used to say, like a wet mackerel. and sending your love into that person, that's exchanging the gift. That's sharing the gift. And that's what my dad has done with his whole life, is shared his gift. Not always knowing how to do it, and we could always forgive him when he would flub up and he would laugh about himself. Because it doesn't matter if it's perfect. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you do the meditation perfect. It doesn't matter if you even do it sometimes. Knock it off. You know what I'm saying? Stop for a while if you need to. Just come back to that simple thing that I said, which was, be still and know. If you're looking for that stillness, and this is a vehicle to get you to that stillness, who cares? I have an old blazer over there. Have you guys seen my old blazer over there? It's all rusty and it drips oil, but it brought me out here. So it doesn't matter if the mechanism, if the mechanics of it is perfect. It's the intent. It's where your heart comes from. It's what you know in your heart, which is that you love the Lord with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength. Words, 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 words. But it really does mean something. It's you have to really live it. You have to live it every day. When you reach your hand out to somebody, you got an unlimited supply of love. Share it.